in here. So for your classes, Intro to Social Work, we've already done discussion and a paper. And here is where, are you both in 2W or are you in 1W? Okay. So the first paper and on up.
Wait, I'm in one.
Okay, they're both the same though.
Oh, okay.
Like they'll both have the same. It's just that I have 60 students, so I'm glad you guys.
Oh, okay.
If you want to come in person, maybe this is a good time. Like if it works out for you guys, if I ended this class early, it's supposed to go till 3:45. What room number is this? 318 or something. So for those of you that are online, 318 on Tuesdays and Thursdays at like 3:30. Yeah. Just for a check-in. Any questions? So the first paper is like 2 pages. The second one gets a little harder. It's like 3 pages. They're all APA style. Third paper is 4 pages, and I think the most that we get to, actually I think it's this one. So this is where the next paper, and it's not due until the 19th, but that's like 2 weeks away. You're going to want to look up the Code of Ethics, and it's free. You can download the National Association of Social Workers Code of Ethics. Are either one of you a social work major? Both? Okay, cool. So have you taken any other social work classes? Are you both, you mean the one in front of this class? Okay. So are you both freshmen?
No, I'm a sophomore. I took it last semester.
Okay. With Dr. Ebony Speaks?
Science room.
Okay, cool. So she might have pulled out the Code of Ethics for you guys. And it's okay. So I guess what I'm saying is you'll be introduced to it, and then for the rest of your career, like I've been a social worker for 20 years. I've taught for about 11. You will always use the Code of Ethics. It basically is what keeps you out of trouble, like dual relationships, how to properly charge for your clients, how to, let's Google it. And for the assignment, you're going to go through it. So it's NASW code, and it's a free PDF, so you can download it at every agency I've worked at. Will you guys graduate in 2023 then? Okay. So if you go here, there's your free download. And it gives you like the history, and it kind of goes through the Code of Ethics. That's interesting. Oh, okay. You can do it online or download it. And basically it covers, the preamble, our ethical principles. So you're going to pick like one of these and one of these to go over. Something that makes sense to you and like you vibe with, and then one that you're challenged by. And a lot of people pick the one that they're challenged by is like in social work, we do make sure to have like proper boundaries. Like we don't give clients hugs and stuff like that. And some people are like, if I'm counseling somebody, I want to give them a hug if they're crying. So some people have trouble with like that code of ethic, if that makes sense. So that's like a lot of the time the one that they'll pick out. Like, I don't know if I totally agree with this one. So this is a weird way, but this, it goes like 1, 2, 3. And every time we see a client, this just is saying that like, we're not going to tell them what to do. Self-determination. Like as a social worker, we allow people to make their own choices. We can help guide their choices and give them full information about what they're choosing to do. But ultimately, they have what's called self-determination. And they will choose what they're going to do. And that's hard in addiction recovery, where I've worked for a while, because some people choose to go back out and drink or to smoke crack. And it sucks because they don't get sober. You know what I mean? Like it's sad as you see them go downhill. I work 3 years at a recovery center, and it's hard to watch people suffer. This is another one. So informed consent it's like all the paperwork you do when you see a doctor. Same with us. When you see a social worker, it's saying like, yes, I agree with these services, and yes, and I know this is a lengthy way to say it. Like they use the professional language. So your paper is going to be picking 1 or 2 of these that make sense and you agree with. Competence is what you guys are getting right now. So by getting 30 hours of social work training here at Central State University, ideally you become competent in everything that you're doing. You'll do also a 12-hour practicum. Have you guys heard about that? So either one of you plan on going to graduate school too? Because we qualify for what's known as advanced standing in graduate school, and it cuts off a whole year of grad school because we're an accredited program. If you went to, which cities are you guys from? Okay, so they have really good graduate schools up there, but if you stayed around here, we have like University of Cincinnati, we have Miami University in Oxford, there's even Dayton. If you get a BSW, you only have to do 35 hours for your MSW. I had to do like 67 accredited hours for a graduate degree. So that's the cool part. You can be a master of social work basically in 1 year. When you graduate, you start in the summer and you finish in May. It's just 1 year after your BSW here. So, shoot. I need you guys to get these masks yet. So you'll get the competence you need here. You'll do your 12-hour practicum, but that's like your senior year. So it's like 12 credit hours, and you work at a say a food pantry or a homeless shelter, or what type of work did you want to do with your social work degree?
Hospital or
Okay.
child protective services.
Okay. We have stuff like that. I know Dr. Allen's in charge, even like adoption services or foster cares or something you wanted to do in that area. So they have internships, and you basically would show up and you do 400 hours throughout the semester. So you have like 16 weeks to do 400 hours. It's kind of like a full-time job. It is best to find a paid one, but there's not many paid ones, which stink. But you're doing half of your graduate school there. I had to do 900 hours total for my master's of social work. So, and we did that over 300-hour semesters. You guys are doing one here, and then you'll do either one or two 250-hour semesters in grad school. If you choose, you don't have to go to grad school. Like with a BSW, Bachelor of Social Work, and an LSW, you're licensed in social work, you can do a lot of stuff, and there's good jobs. Some of the other things is we're culturally aware, and we're aware of social diversity. So social workers understand culture and its function and behavior in human society, acknowledge the base of their clients' cultures. Another one is the conflict of interest. Like you can't see your cousin or your friend in a counseling session in social work. It's like a conflict of interest. You usually will pass them on to another social worker technically. That way you don't have what's called a dual relationship, is you're like their friend and their social worker, and that's always a bad situation. It happens, and sometimes like, well, yeah, I could help you out. And then another big one is, and you probably already know this part, if you've seen a counselor, we keep everything confidential. And so you tell them that everything they share with us is confidential unless if they're a harm to self or others. So you're going to pick one of these to write about. Like, I like that we have that in the Code of Ethics and Social Work because another one that also makes sense is social workers should under no circumstances engage in sexual activities, inappropriate communications, through the use of technology or in person, sexual contact with current clients, whether it is consensual or not, forced. So social workers should not engage in sexual contact with their relatives or individuals. So this is a big one. Actually, if you look up licenses and the reason people lose their license, there are some social workers that have lost their license. Like they might have hooked up with one of their clients' moms or something, like that's a no-no. Like you separate your work from like your personal life is kind of why they have all these rules. There's the one on physical contact. So should not engage in physical contact with clients when there's a possibility of psychological harm. So they've kind of shifted it a bit. Like now you probably could give a hug, but some people use that as their example of one they don't totally agree with, or the payment for services, because sometimes they're like, well, I don't mind getting chicken eggs for payment for services. We also do not sexually harass clients, obviously. No derogatory language, which is interesting. Because sometimes when you are working with, like, say, troubled youth, it doesn't hurt to like talk at their level, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Show that like they don't have power with the language by like cussing all the time. So that's one that I could even say, well, let's see how it's written. Social workers should not use derogatory language in their written, verbal, or electronic communications to or about clients. Okay, that makes sense. Not like you can't call them a name. Social workers should use accurate and respectful language in common. So these are like our laws of a code we follow to be a good social worker. And this, if there's an interruption in service, we refer them to someone else. If we have to refer them to someone else, we make sure it's a current list. When we terminate services, we do it properly and respectfully. So are some of these making sense? Like every like law, the medical field, and counselors, they all have one of these, and they're very similar. Actually, I think the one social workers used to have was stronger. In law, there was only 5 years where you couldn't say, have a relationship with a client. In social work, it used to be for life because you're meeting your client sometimes in very vulnerable situations of their life. So they don't want you ever to have a relationship. These look like they're repeating themselves again. Interesting. So that's the essence of the second paper, that you'll pick one, and I'll show you how it's written because that might help too, is that you go into the code, you'll compare and contrast your personal values. So most of those things kind of make sense regardless. So they're easy to compare. The contrasting part might be like, I want to be able to give my client a hug when they're crying. Critically evaluate your own values and thoughtfully give examples of compatibility. It is just 3 to 4 pages. So we just like go up by a page on each paper. I think the biggest paper is like 5 or 6. And there's kind of the rubric, if you guys like rubrics. The reason I put these, well, last semester, so you know kind of like what we will do next. I wonder if it has some of my, I guess it doesn't have those. Well, yeah, it would be in my YouTube channel. And somehow I have 2 YouTubes. One is like from Miami University. The other one's like UConn John Juan at, it might have been my Gmail though. So basically it is a discussion every week and there's like a paper every 2 weeks. Does that kind of help flow you through? There's a presentation at the end too, and I'll go over that here in a minute. And you can basically, because it is online, you probably, unless if you wanted to come in and present it, and I can film it this way. Most students would like film on their cell phone and give the PowerPoint from their computer, if that makes sense. So, oh yeah, I did try to give you like the book, but I don't know if I succeeded. I feel like this is more of the instructor's manual instead of the book, but it gives you, okay, this is the first chapter. So I scanned some of the book because I know those books are expensive. So, and then all the videos, but some people, I didn't know they would let you reply on these. So you can go into the old discussion and you can write under that, but it's not graded. So if you do that, it's not the end of the world. You just copy what you wrote and paste it. You would go back to the main page basically. And I'm just going to open those up like week by week. So it'll be like, yeah, this is due on the 13th, and then this is due on the 19th. I'll probably get a discussion here due on the 20th. So like every week there'll be a discussion. Is that helpful? I wonder how you thought it was at 3 o'clock now though, because I feel it's okay. I was wondering what to do with this class because I've never done like fully online where I didn't have a room. Like last semester it was online, but I'm like, I'm in room 318, come at either 10 or 12. I had 2 social work intros last semester and or watch the video. But I feel like in person is so much more rich because you can question me and call me out. You guys have any other questions? Or like, Is that helpful, or does that give you kind of a, here's every single chapter of your book. So, oh, here it is. This is the instructor's manual. I was trying to upload the book for you guys, which, So here you go. This is every single chapter. And the quizzes on here are actually good for when you take your licensure exam.
Mhm.
So 14 weeks, 14 chapters. I try to finish a little bit early so we have time for the presentations. But yeah, this is every single chapter. Yeah.
So thank you.
Absolutely. And yeah, thank you guys for reminding me.
Thanks.
Yeah. Have a good middle of the